The first 4 weeks is called aptitude. It's basically a series of walking over the hills with a pack that gets larger and larger, with a distance that gets further and further. You know, you do exactly what you're told, when you're told, how you're told, and you just walk the hills. You know, I had toenails missing, I had skin off the back, you know, I had blisters on my feet, I had a dislodged retina. I had all sorts wrong with my body by the end of that 4 weeks.
Let's start at the beginning. Can you talk about what your early childhood was like?
Yeah, cool. Right, early childhood then for me consisted of being born in London, where I was adopted. This couple turned up from Southampton. He'd just lost his job, and so he'd lost his car as well. So they took me home, they took me back to Southampton in a motorbike and sidecar. So that was my first ever trip out of London, was motorbike and sidecar, where I began life in Southampton on edges of a council estate called Harefield. And then as I grew up, my early memories of them really were him. He was a really violent man. He used to drink a lot. I can remember the smell of alcohol. And obviously I didn't know it was alcohol when I was little, but I can remember him, you know, drunken. He used to beat the absolute daylights out of me, like, do you know what I mean? And I was only small, and he was a big man. He was an 18 stone, 19 stone lump. I wasn't a well-behaved kid. I can't blame it all on what was going on at home, but I had the attention span of a goldfish, like, do you know what I mean? I never wanted to be in the classroom. I always wanted to be outside. I was always staring out the window, always daydreaming. And I got a job as a skiing instructor down at this place called Casual Activity Centre. So I was in there, I was working in the workshops, mending skis, I was teaching skiing. Now I thought I was going to get, at the end of this 2 years, I thought there's no way they won't take me on because I'm a great skiing instructor, like, do you know what I mean? And I'm doing the job here, I'm doing it well. Well, at the end of the day, there was a guy there, I think he'd been a captain or something in the Navy, and he run the place, he was the boss, and he called me into his office and he says, Phil, he says, your end of your ITS is coming up. He says, it's been great having you. And I thought, here we go. Here comes the golden egg, like, do you know what I mean? Bang, go on, tell me how much you're going to pay me and all that. No. He said, look, mate, he goes, I can't take you on. He says, you need teaching qualifications here, and you ain't got none. He literally said to me, have you ever thought about going in the army? And I sort of looked up and said, well, yeah, I said, I have. So literally, he arranged some transport, and I went straight to the careers office from being with him, like, do you know what I mean? And it was like, it was straight down there. There was a big old sergeant in there, and he was a grenadier guard or something, barking away, like, do you know what I mean? And I'm like, all right, we'll see where this goes. When they came round with the sheet to say what you could do, I thought, you know, helicopter pilot will do me, and he says, infantry. Like, you know, I'm like, all right, anything else? No, infantry, mate, that's it, infantry. So I'm like, I'm pretty much good to go. Now, I didn't know a lot about the army in those days, other than what I'd seen in the cadets, but I thought, look, this is my chance to get away from everything. You know, they're going to take me away. I was going to be training in a place called Lichfield. It was going to be miles away. So long as I passed all these tests they gave me, I was laughing, I was off. And that's basically what happened. I passed my tests and off I went.
Were you excited by it?
Yeah, of course I was. I'm like, this is, mate, I'm always, no matter what I do, I'm chomping at it, like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, wow. And I love new things, do you know what I mean? I love new stuff, new challenges and all that sort of thing. You learn all sorts of cool stuff, new stuff. You're out there, you're shooting guns, you're running around, you're on assault courses. It's all good. It's all good. There was nothing bad about it. Do you know what I mean? You're eating in the field, you're learning how to cook, you're staying under the stars, all that sort of stuff. Loved it. So I got best improved recruit, but it was about 6 months ago. Somebody said to me that means I was a complete when I turned up and they managed to get me over the line. So it shattered me a little bit. that is true, apparently. Yeah, it's true. Someone told me. I was all proud about that for years, and then someone told me. Right. Anyway, but like with all these things, you've had a great time there, so you sort of like reach the top of the training establishment, and then you're like, boom, off you go to your battalion, and you're down the bottom of the ladder again, you know? And I got to the battalion when everybody had just done a tour of Northern Ireland. So I'm the only crow. I'm the crow without a medal in it, do you know what I mean? Everybody else has got a medal, and I'm like, no. So I found the first 6 or 7 months of being in my battalion, I found it quite hard. And I know you've got to cut your teeth, but it could be in those days, it could be quite tough. And there was a little bit of sort of like, bordering bullying. If they'd done, you know, they track you like you did nowadays, they'd be outed, like, you know. But in those days, you probably got a little bit of character building, they called it in them days, you know what I mean? Bullying, they call it nowadays, but character building in them days. I then ended up, we amalgamated, so I was the Royal Hampshire at the time, and we amalgamated to the Princess of Wales's Royal Regiment. I'd done P Company, which is the parachute regiment's tests and all that. And again, they have commando power, not commando powers, artillery powers and all that sort of stuff. But we did it because we were part of 5 Airborne Brigade. So I had to do P Company the brigade commander said he wanted an airborne platoon in every battalion that was in the brigade. So we got paid extra money, so it just made sense that I'd do it. So I did it. It was another challenge. It was a great challenge. At the end of it, I thought, well, I might as well, if I put the effort in here, I might as well see if I can transfer to the parachute regiment. Nah, he wasn't having that. Nobody was having that in our place. I put my paperwork in to go for SAS Selection, which I hadn't really thought about at all up until that stage. When you go to the SAS, you revert, whatever rank you are, you revert back to trooper when you get to the SAS. So that's you, done, you're a trooper. You keep what they call a shadow rank, so you can still get paid the same as you would be worth, but you basically revert back, as far as your job's concerned, to a trooper. So to me, it made sense. And look, having seen what they did, having had a little bit of experience watching them in places like Kenya and Northern Ireland and actually coming across them a few times, these guys seriously knew what they were doing. Like, do you know what I mean? You look at them and it's like, wow.
And the selection process for the SAS is like notoriously difficult.
So the selection process for the SAS, yes, it is notoriously honking. It's a disgusting process, right? But here's the key to it, right? Here's the key. So I always say to young lads, ask someone who's passed and not someone who's failed. Because if you ask someone who's failed, you'll get a lot harder picture than someone who's passed, all right? Now, I'm not going to tell you it's easy, because it wasn't easy. But I'm not going to tell you it's impossible either. Because when I left my battalion, there was a sweepstake saying I wouldn't last a week, all right? So people had heard all these stories from other people. I think it's down to the individual. Selection is there to break you. They don't want you. They don't want it. They don't want nothing to do with you. You are a volunteer on selection. That's a very important thing for people to realise. You get these people, and I've heard it in the pub myself. Oh, yeah, they came looking for him, they picked him. No, they didn't. You're a liar. Do you know what I mean? You're full of it. Because they didn't pick him at all. What happened was he had to put his paperwork in like everybody else if he wanted to go on selection, because they don't go headhunting. They literally, you volunteer. And actually, if you look on an SAS guy's medals, it will say SAS volunteer in brackets. All right, it will say he's a volunteer. Massively important. Press gang soldiers do not perform like volunteers, ever. All right, that's a fact. So you volunteer to go on selection. The first 4 weeks is called aptitude, as far as the SAS is concerned. We call it the tree, the hills. All right, it's the hills phase. It's basically a series of walking over the hills with a pack that gets larger and larger, with a distance that gets further and further. You know, you do exactly what you're told, when you're told, how you're told, and you just walk the hills, and that's it. And it's designed in 4 weeks. You know, if you really don't want to be there, you probably would have handed yourself in by now. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, if you don't want to be there, you won't stay, because it's one of those things. It will break you. It will break you eventually. Also, it will find that if you're robust enough. You know, I had toenails missing. I had skin off the back. You know, I had blisters on my feet. I had a dislodged retina. I had all sorts wrong with my body by the end of that 4 weeks. You know, I had plenty of excuse to say, I'll tell you what, I've had enough. Do you know what I mean? But I wanted to be there. At the end of that 4 weeks, they probably don't even know your name. They're certainly not interested, all right? They want a group of soldiers that they can take to the jungle and now train properly. So the jungle phase, once you get to there, that's where the real soldiering starts. Now the jungle's twice as honking as the hills, because it's like the hills, but it's covered in trees. And it rains, you know, at least twice a day, torrential rain, which gets you completely soaking through. It's hot, it's humid, you sweat, so you're wet. For the time you get in there to the time you come out, you're wet. All right, it's absolutely minging. You live as if you were tactical the whole time. So you never ever go to the toilet on your own. Your weapon goes absolutely everywhere with you. You've got this finger, but you've got to perform the whole time. You're in there under canopy for about 6 to 8 weeks. I can't remember exactly how long, but you're in there. Everything they want you to do, they teach you first. So they will show you absolutely everything. Then you'll practice it, and then you'll do an exercise at the end. So it's not impossible. But it is extremely hard. Like I say, with all these other things going on, you've got insects, you've got, everyone wants you dead in the jungle. Everything, including your instructors, all right? Nobody wants you alive, okay? So again, if you're not going to make it mentally, you're going to get found out in the jungle. You're going to get found out. There's no chance you're going to get to the end of 8 weeks living like that unless you really want to be there. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the jungle. Now we had Gucci guns. Now we were doing Gucci things. Do you know what I mean? And I'm thinking, now this is good. This is proper now. This is what I joined up for. You know, we're doing all this sort of stuff. We're getting proper assets thrown at us. You know what I mean? If you need a helicopter, you'll get a helicopter now. All that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Before, in the normal army, if you need a helicopter, a Bedford will turn up and you'll pretend it's a helicopter. Do you know what I mean? No. Here, you get the real deal. Like, you know, so everything is good in the hood. You're there. You're learning. And I love learning. So I'm like a sponge. Do you know what I mean? I'm taking this stuff in. Yeah, you have your bad days. Yeah, I had a couple of times when I thought, whoa, can I really take this? But overall, because of the amount of stuff that I was learning, I absolutely loved it. And I think if you speak to people who've been on selection, who've passed selection, they will tell you how much they enjoyed it, even though it was insanely difficult. And then you get badged, and it's like, you get given your beret and the CO comes round. It literally was, we were sat in a line, and it's no big ceremony or nothing like that. The CO comes in, says how lucky you were all to pass, says how rubbish you are until you've done something proper, throws your beret at you, and that's it. You're like, oh, cheers for that. And I remember literally, I got to my squadron, and we were on counter-terrorism. And so you go away, you've done your counter-terrorism training, you do some training with the squadron, you get broken into your teams, red team, blue team as it was at the time. You got your Range Rovers and all this, and it's like great. It's like, wow, this is real. And I remember, I got a pager. I got given a pager, and I'm like, wow, I've got a pager. First time in my life, some responsibility like that. I mean, little pager, and you get told, you know, if it goes off, you've got to get back to camp and all this sort of stuff. And I stuck it in my pocket, and everywhere, always charged up, took it everywhere. I'm walking around Sainsbury's. It was a Saturday. No, it was a Sunday. That was a Saturday. And I'm walking around Sainsbury's, and I'm pushing my old trolley, and I've got it on silent, but it started vibrating in my pocket. I'm like, oh, that's nice. What's that? Oh, when did you get off? Oh, no, hang on. Hey, it's my pager. So I'm in Sainsbury's now, my pager's going off. I'm like, I might have to go and save the world. Like, boom, I'm down the road. I'm running. I go past the ship, past the workshop. I'm up the road. Right, I'm sprinting. I am proper moving now. So I'm running down the corridor, and I'll get there, and I'll do like this comedy stop in front of the Sergeant Major's desk like that. And I'm like, I'm here, sir. He goes, I'm really glad about that. He said, the vicar needs a tent putting up. The vicar? I'm like that. Really? And I bet everyone else is coming this afternoon, haven't they? Oh, fuming. But there you go. That's sort of like, it's a humbling thing, isn't it? You know what I mean? Bottom of the pile again, isn't you? You've just passed selection, you joined your squadron, bottom of the pile. So I was in the SAS for about 5 years, but I had a great time. I had a great time in the regiment, a really good time. So yeah, did some cool stuff. Some of the stuff, obviously, you know, you're not allowed to talk about. I just, you know, probably the biggest thing that's public that's known about that I did was the operation where we saved the Royal Irish lads from the West Side Boys in Sierra Leone. So that was a good operation for me. And then pretty much I got out. I left the regiment. I was a bit of a tearaway. I was a little bit too handy with these sometimes, and I fell out of a few people and ended up a PVR'd. I bought my way out. So at that particular time when I got out, for the first couple of months, I actually run out of money. I couldn't get a job anywhere, and I went to the job centre. And I remember going in there, and you could get, you get a crisis loan, didn't you? You get this thing called a crisis loan. And I went in there to get my crisis loan. I'm like, £78 or something it was. And I sat in there and I got interviewed by this girl. She must have been about 18 years old. Now, you have to take an interview. You have to take a job interview or you can't get your dough. That's the score, right? So she says, right, I'll take your information, I'll put it in the computer. She says, I'm struggling to find you something. And then she goes, ding. Oh, I found you a job interview to go to. She says, it'll be next week. Yeah, what's happening? Lollipop man in Margate. Lollipop man in Margate. I'm like, are you real? Are you for real? Yes, I'm for real. Your appointment time will be at such and such, and you can collect your cheque on the way out. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, get the green. I've got me 78 quid, and I'm going to have to go to this interview. Like, anyway, luckily, about a day later, someone offered me some stuff and said, look, if I could get myself to Afghanistan, I could have a job out there. And I literally went out to Afghanistan almost straight away. So, yeah, I was fairly lucky.
You ended up on the private circuit.
Yes. Basically, I mean, it can be anybody can be on the circuit. If you know the right person, if you've got the right contact. You know, I've seen all sorts of people out on some of these jobs, especially, you know, when Afghan and Iraq were both going at the same time. They couldn't fill enough seats. And basically what it will consist of is usually escorting jobs, training jobs, anything that the military can't cover, haven't seen. Like, for instance, I did a job for the European Commission. Now, it was a great job. It was a full diplomatic privileges job. We looked after the European Commission because they didn't have a dedicated CP team, and no one country was prepared to go, right, we'll give you ours. So they farmed it out to a private company. Now, the stuff that I enjoyed was the Afghan and the Iraq, and there was a little bit, an element of danger in there. And it, you know, I got into loads of scrapes. It was a poor second to the army. It was certainly a poor second to special forces. However, on the plus side of things, you could earn anywhere up to 120, 200k a year. It was a great experience. You know, I did Afghanistan, I did Iraq, I did Gaza, I did all over West Africa, I did the anti-piracy stuff. So there was always something to do, always something that you could get involved with. So you know, varying degrees of danger, varying degrees of pay even. You know, some jobs paid extremely well, some weren't. Some might have all the danger and no pay. Some might have all the pay and no danger. It was a proper lottery, like, do you know what I mean? But it was fun. I had a great time doing it. You know, it was something that, it was a calculated risk every time I went. I have turned jobs down if I thought they were too insanely dangerous. I have turned them down. I'm not one of these who just go out the gate, you know, willy-nilly on anything. I will have a little look at it, and if I think it's not applicable to me or within my skill sets, I won't do it. Simple as, you know, no matter what anyone says to me. But if I do think I can do it, you know, an element of risk to you might just be all day in the office to me, you know, so that's the way I work it.
You mentioned the Piracy Circuit.
So the anti-piracy stuff was Gulf of Aden, bit of a problem with pirates in Somalia. And I'm going to be really honest here, right? I'm going to be honest. If I was a Somalian, if I was a Somali goat herder and a Somali fisherman, and you ruined my coastline with your shit in the water, I'll start taking ships and all right. So I think a lot of people are sort of like, oh, scumbags. Well, scumbags they might be, but they're scumbags who ultimately in the early days, you know, their fishing waters were destroyed. Nothing was given to them in compensation. They had no way of making a living, so they started to pinch a few ships. That's a fair one in my book, I'm telling you. All right, so at the time when I first went down there was a thing called the internationally recognised transit corridor, right? And it went along the top of the Gulf of Aden, and you got a warship escort through there. But either end of that, once you broke away, you were fair game. And I remember, my first ever job. So my first ever job on anti-piracy, absolute disaster. I get asked to go down to pick a ship up. I get told that when I get to the port, there's going to be a load of defence stores. I'm going to get loads of barbed wire. I get there, nothing, absolutely nothing. So I phone the office in London. Where's my barbed wire? Right, it's going to be there. Someone's going to get. So I managed to get down to the agent again. He takes me down. He goes, I've got your wire. He gives me a thing of gardening twine. Right? I'm like, what am I going to do with that? I phoned the office up and I said to them, what am I going to do with this gardening twine? And literally, the guy on the other end of the phone, a bloke called Will, I'm not going to say his full name, a bloke called Will went, nobody said it was going to be easy. All right? And that was it. Those were the early days. And it was like, so I knew I got on the ship, and we had to defend this ship with nothing. No guns, no nothing. In the knowing that the pirates had guns and they had, you know, range. They had little boats to come and attack you and all that sort of stuff. So it would turn into like you go and grab the bosun straight away. You'd go and raid his store, whatever you could get. You know, you'd make spikes. I'd tip oil all over the decks and make them slippery. Anything you could. It was like an A-team trip. And you'd be half like defending this ship before you got there. And it really was pot luck. You know, you could have no guns, but you could have flares. I remember we took crossbows on one. So you could pretty much take what you could lay your hands on in this country. So you couldn't even take knives with you, really. Do you know what I mean? You'd be in the cookhouse with the chef, seeing if he could borrow sort of like something you could stick someone with if they got on. Now, drill-wise, you would say to the crew, if it all kicks off, you go down into the citadel, into the bottom of the ship, and 2 or 3 of us will stay at the top to deal with it. Now, the early tactics that we had with these ships would be simple as I knew that, you know, a Somali farmer in a boat going like that with an AK-47 isn't likely to hit much, right? So my theory was, if I could build something that looked like I was going to fight him, if I could get him to start shooting at me, brilliant, awesome, because he ain't going to hit me, all right? So I'll let him spray all his bullets off, and when he's run out of bullets, he'll go anyway, okay? And that literally was our plan. See if you can get him to run out of bullets and fuel and turn around, okay? Because other than that, you was in it, right? If they got on, you could be quite heavily in it as well. First attack then. First attack, bobbing along, and I had a guy with me who was a complete drunk. And he wasn't up for it, he didn't feel well, and he just drank the whole time we were there. So I ended up doing a lot more time on the bridge than what I should have done. The captain of the ship, he was Russian, complete drunk. Didn't want to go through pirate water, the crew weren't up for it, he was absolutely scared. Anyway, we join the battleships, he's all happy, he's up at the front, he's driving the ship, right? We get to the other end, he disappears. Anyway, we've gone for about, we're headed up, we're turning right, we're going up towards Egypt. We come out of there, and I see these 2 little specks behind us. I'm like, could be, could be, could be. Keeps an eye on the radar. One of the ship's crew sees it. What is this, Mr. Phil? What is this? I'm like, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. Nothing. They're getting closer. So I say to the first officer, I said, change direction slightly. So he changes direction. Sure enough, boom, these things tuck in and come with us. I'm like, that's pirates, definitely pirates. I'm trying to go, I go, right, you might want to get a few people downstairs, get them out of the way, get them locked up, but don't worry about it, it's probably not pirates. By this stage, I might as well just hit a panic button. They're all over the place, these people. So they've gone downstairs. The only person that stayed with me was the bosun. And he was quite a fit little lad, and I knew he'd be probably quite up for a row as well. So we're up there, we've got a couple of bags of nuts and bolts, we've got 3 flares, and that's it. That's it, bust. So, like I said we were going to do, I've got a wooden gun, right, that I've cut out of a piece of cardboard. As the pirates come up the side, let them have a little look. Yep, sure enough, they start shooting. They ain't getting nothing. They ain't getting nothing near me. Do you know what I mean? It's all flying well, and you know when something's you get that. But when it's like it's all coming over the top, it's going miles away. So all these bullets are going all over the place. They do one pass. They get close enough for me to think I could have a go with the flare. So I'm like, okay, when he comes in, I see him head dead towards the side of the ship. I'm like, hits his flare off, and I've taken the parachute out of it, so it's not going to stop. It's just going to keep going, and it sort of like skews past him. Now he's laughing at me. He's like, "That's all you got." He's laughing. I see a great big grin from the ship, like from his little boat. He's grinning at me. I'm like, "Oh right, okay." He's got me rumbled now already. So I let him have another one when he comes a bit closer. It misses him by about that. Now I'm grinning. I'm thinking I could possibly get you with the last one. Well, the last one goes disastrously sort of into the sea. I'm like, oh, that's the last one. So as he's getting up to the side of the ship, we're lobbing nuts and bolts at him. He don't care. He don't care now. He's getting on as far as he's concerned. And he's trying to get this ladder on. Now, we've got no nuts and bolts left and no flares. We're like, oh, what are we going to do? So I'm like thinking, what can I do? I goes running into the bridge to see if I can find anything I can lob at this geezer. Anything at all. Don't care what it is, anything. Looks around, the captain's got a fridge in there. A little fridge with Cokes in it, right? Little, like, sort of like portable fridge type thing, and it's got Cokes in it, but it looks quite heavy. And I'm like that, look inside, there's Cokes in it. Right, so I empty this out, rip it out, go running down to the bridge wing, look over the edge and think, right, he's trying to hook on this guy. So the boat's going like this in the wake of our ship, and he's trying to hook on. I think, right, I've got probably one chance to do this. So I look over the edge of the ship, and I think, right, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to get his attention first because I want him to see me. I want him to know that I'm doing this, right? So I yell over, oi! Like this, and as he looks up, I throw this fridge as hard as I ever can at him, and it whistles by. It must have missed his head by millimetres, and it goes smashing into where he's trying to join the ship to ours on this rope thing. It severs that, and they go bobbing away backwards, and luckily it was enough. He sort of like, he must have thought, this guy's a nutter. So he's had enough, and he turned around and went. I got to the stage with the circuit stuff, and obviously, as we spoke about, you know, I've been taken twice. I've been taken once in Afghanistan, you know, only for a short period of time, but I'd also been taken in Toga. I in my own mind, was running my luck out here, all right? I was thinking to myself, what can I do? Well, I wrote a book called Born Fearless, big plug, all right? I knew when I wrote it, it was going to start closing a few doors down, but I was a bit older and I thought, right, it doesn't matter so much now because I want to try and transition away and do something else. But when I first sort of like took my foot off the gas, I couldn't find any work whatsoever. The book had done okay, but I wasn't going to retire on the book. And I had a bit of money saved up in the bank then, and I was drinking, and I was proper drinking. And I'm one of these people, if I do anything, I'd do it to the absolute max, all right? So I was drinking far too much. I started getting a bit of trouble. I had a bit of a domestic at home, and I put a window through, but I don't put windows through with, I put a window through with a bed. Do you know what I mean? I threw a bed through my front window. There was a neighbour, and I called him a load of, and I must have said to him, I'm going to kill you or whatever, like, do you know what I mean? Because next minute, loads of police have turned up. They've dragged me out of my house. I've had a roll around with them. I've gone down to the police station. They come into my cell, and at first they tried to charge me with attempted murder for this. Insane. Even the duty solicitor, this is insane. Anyway, she said, you're going to go up in front of the beak on Monday. They're going to try and remand you in custody and try and sort this out. So they've lowered it to attempted GBH. I felt proper low. It was like, and look, this is again, some mental health stuff kicking in here. People have always said to me that you are crazy if you talk to yourself. Well, I tell you now that you're crazy if you don't. Because I looked in the mirror in my cell in Winchester, and the guy I saw was a complete. All right, I knew, you know, although I wasn't guilty of attempted this, attempted that, and attempted the other. In fact, probably at worst, a bit of noise had been made. Like, do you know what I mean? And I'd broken my own property. Well, so what? So, you know, that aside, I'd still managed to put myself in a position where now I was, you know, I'd had my liberty taken. So, you know, I had messed up in my own mind. I had a proper word with myself. You know, it took me a while to sort it out. It took me about 6 weeks in Winchester before finally they let me out on licence. I went on a tag. I stayed at my brother's house. eventually all the sort of like layers and restrictions got let off. I managed to get it allowed out till midnight because I told them like I had sort of like work to do in the city and all that sort of stuff. I lied like a cheap Japanese watch, anything to get off this tag, like, do you know what I mean? And then I made him and offered me a job in Albania. So off to Albania I went, tag came off completely, and they said, look, you just need to be there on the day, you've got to go to court. Went to court, it all got dropped. The judge actually had to go out, and I got done with, I think, a Section 5, you know, disorder charge, you know, causing someone of normal firmness of mind to feel for his stroke her safety. It's nothing. You could get done with that if you spat at someone in the street or called them a name, do you know? It was nothing. So it all got washed down. But ultimately it damaged what my credibility was work-wise in the security business. You can't, you know, my licence has been revoked by the time I was on the tag. I wasn't going to get them back straight away. So now I was pushed into the corner and I had no work. So I literally had nothing. I phoned round all the normal places where I got work, nothing. Sorry, Phil, no, can't do it now, no, nothing. I'm in the brown sticky stuff now, do you know what I mean? I've got nowhere to go. So I sort of like thought to myself, right, what I'll do is I'll go on Facebook and see if anyone's got it. And I got on Facebook, and my cousin got hold of me and said, look, Phil, he said, I've got a building site in, he was running a building site in Sutton, in London. He said, look, if you come over there, he says, you can labour. He says, and at night, if you want to stay there, if you can get hold of a caravan or something, if you can stay there, he says, you can be the security. And in the evenings, I used to take like 15, 20 quid if I had it, and I used to go around places like the Ivy and all that, and I'd take a copy of my book, and if I heard any of these types talking about TV, and, oh, by the way, my name's Phil, yeah. And I used to just introduce myself into other people's conversations, and before you knew it, I'd managed to blag my way onto Sky News as like all this stuff was going on terrorism-wise, and I managed to blag my way in, and every 5 minutes, the first one went particularly well, and every 5 minutes I'm on Sky News, and eventually they gave me the documentary, which was, what was the documentary? Big Phil's War, which went down really well. One thing I have learned in this industry, nobody is just going to hand it to you. No one's just going to give it to you. And I remember my adopted mother, I might not have got on with her, but she did always used to say to me, if you want a job, doing it yourself, like, you know. And I think that's the way for me. And, you know, even when I spoke to Bear, I said, you know, I can't rely on anybody in this industry, you know, whether they're a friend or not. I've got to go out and I've got to do my own thing, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And I will never give up with what I do because, you know, I do believe in myself if nobody else does.
Do you have any like advice you'd like to give to anyone who...
Yeah, my advice to anybody is, look, as far as we know, life is not a rehearsal, all right? We're not here teeing ourselves up for another go at it later on. You will get out of life what you put in. Just never give up. You're going to be in a situation many a time where you're at the bottom of the heap, okay? But when you're at the bottom of the heap, if you're still drawing breath into your lungs, well, there's a chance you can get to the top of that heap again. And I would say to anybody, just never, ever give up on your dreams and your hopes, and you'll get there eventually. It might be the long way round, but you will get there eventually. And even if you didn't, well, at least you gave it your shot.
I looked up and I could see two guys with a PKM belt-fed Russian machine gun, and they were hammering down on the lads. And my rifle only shoots 1,500 metres, so I had to, I call it lob in. I lobbed the bullet in,